Hey everyone, thanks so much for having me here. My name is Chris Wakely. I am the partnership team at Gong, and I look after our relationships with our advisory and consulting partners. And I'm so happy to take this chance to speak with all the Sandler folks, the Sandler customers and prospects. So what I'd like to do is take the next 15 minutes just to talk to you about how do we help teams through some economic uncertainty. Well, I don't want to be a downer, but let's face it, the current market environment is really presenting a bunch of unprecedented set of challenges. So we've got headwinds since the beginning of the year. They've really picked up. Flagging growth, surging inflation, increasing interest rates. And over the last summer, we had politicians and economists engaged in this great debate over whether or not the US was in a recession. Well, I'm not here to debate that issue, but what I am here to talk about is a problem that a lot of revenue leaders are facing today, which is the number is the number. So that number that was set at the beginning of the year, despite the headwinds, despite reduced hiring or lower marketing spend that comes with challenging marketing conditions, the revenue expectations often are going to be the same. So my good friend here, Ryan Reynolds, just joking, of course, he has a great quote that says, anytime a crisis can be good, it wakes you up. And I think this is, also the time for us to really take a look, as Dave mentioned, about honing our sales skills, getting better at our craft, leveraging some technology today. Now is the time to do it when you're in this crisis mode, or when you're in this position where your pipeline isn't strong enough or deals are falling off. What can we do about it? As American gymnast Gabby Douglas said, hey, hard days are the best because that's when champions are made. So really quickly, I want to talk about 5 levers that we can pull as revenue leaders to deal with all this unpredictability that we're starting to face right now. And I won't read them through the screen. You see them right there. But let's just, quickly dive into each one really at a very high level. The first one is positioning. Positioning is everything. So the reality is that the needs and the expectations of your customers have probably shifted in this environment. And the question is, what is the implication for you on your business about that? So as you sit here today, do you really have a good understanding of how conversations have changed between your reps and your customers, your reps and your prospects? So the macroeconomic environment is likely, creating new objections that your sales teams probably have never heard of for the first time. And a revenue intelligence platform like Gong gives you the visibility into what those objections are, and as they come up. And so very rapidly, you can create a playbook or adjust your talk track. So it's also likely that once you adjust that talk track, you're going to have to do it again. So the idea that you're going to have to tweak your messaging and your value propositions over and over to generate interest from your buyers is probably true. So Gong allows you to do that real time, to hear the voice of the customer so that you can pivot your messaging and pivot your strategy. So this is where visibility into these customer interactions is absolutely critical. If you can do that 2 months ahead of your competition, 3 months, 4 weeks, whatever the time frame is, that is going to give you that edge. So this is something that Gong actually has been very focused on, not of course because we use our own product, but the idea of letting the voice of the customer go to be heard at scale. We have this thing called the economic pulse tracker, which allows us to keep an eye on our customers and our prospects who are starting to talk about this new macroeconomic environment. So one of the things I'll give you an example for is at Gong, we've been really seeing that a lot of hiring has become less of a priority for companies. So we've moved away from focusing on telling companies how Gong helps, ramp up their new hires faster. So instead, our product marketing and our enablement teams have been able to quickly create new messages and talk tracks that include more language around things like rep efficiency and maximizing resources and doing more with less, et cetera. So our product marketing team then can see how the customers are responding to those messages and then tune and tweak that accordingly. So how you position your product is everything right now, and listening to the voices of your customer, very, very critical. So we've spent the last 2 years thinking about and rethinking about how do we best engage our people. We've all been part of this war for talent and have had to be very innovative to attract and to retain, the very best during whatever the great resignation or whatever they're calling it now. But as I mentioned, many companies are taking a more cautious approach to hiring, which is a very different situation from what we saw 6 or 9 months ago, right? So in fact, in January of this year, Gong produced a report called the Reality of Sales Talent Report 2022. In its survey, more than 300 sales professionals. It found that an incredible 45% of them said that they had pursued new employment opportunities in the past 6 months. And I was like, wow, are you telling me that half my sales team is out there looking for new jobs? That's crazy. But what was also very revealing in that report was that the number one challenge that sellers faced was staying motivated. So what does staying motivated mean? So that prompts that question, well, how do I motivate my sales team? So this report found that there are 5 drivers of sales motivation. In order of importance, here are the 5 M's. Money, number 1, not surprising. 2, mental health, also not surprising. Mission. This is about whether a seller is excited by and invested in your organization's product and your story, right? Ideally, they'd be enthusiastic about it and be able to, personalize their experience of that product. At number 4, we have manager. Sellers leave when they feel like they're not getting the coaching or the growth that they need to succeed, and they blame their manager for that. And the 5th area is mobility. So given that money is the number 1 motivator, not surprising that sellers want opportunities to move up the ladder and get more money. So as this group of enablement leaders, I'm sure that our focus over the last couple of years has been around hiring top talent and ramping them as efficiently as possible in a remote or in a hybrid world. But, what happens now to your people strategy when hiring slows or even freezes? You need to be able to do more with the same or even do more with less. So it's all about upskilling and strengthening your current people. I'm sure Dave is like nodding his head in the background. A report from CSO Insight shows that an alarming 57% of sales reps miss their quota every single quarter. Meanwhile, your best reps are carrying the weight of the team. And so I've got the bottom half that's never going to make their quota, or half of them aren't going to make it. I've got the top that's always going to carry the team. That begs the question, what can I do to move the middle of the pack up? And what would that do for helping me regularly hit my quota? And that's where technology comes in. Imagine if you could truly understand what it is that your top reps are doing differently. What are the talk traps? How do they overcome those objections? How do they position this product? How do they handle that problem? And then take that information and make it available to everyone. The democratization of information can help move that middle of the pack. So, how meaningful could that be? Well, of course, one of the things we talk about is having a common sales methodology like Sandler. And what I'm showing you here are the results from a value engineering study that we did at one joint Sandler and Gong customers. And we started to find out, well, what are top performers doing? Well, you know what? Top performers use Gong more. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means they listen to calls more, they share calls more, they go on the deal board pages. But also in terms of looking at what else do top performers do, The top performers and strong Gong users adopt Sandler better than their peers. And the data indicates that, number one, top performers think Sandler is a trusted methodology. And number two, Gong usage is a way to up-level your Sandler adoption. So upskill that middle of the pack and get them to be part of your high performers. So once again, we're prompted to ask, well, okay, what else can I do to ensure that more of my team is just ready to meet these tough challenges that are ahead? An obvious one is coaching. So how do we improve rep efficiency? This current market environment is forcing us all to think about efficiency. How can I do more with the same, or how can I do more with less? Forrester conducted a sales activity study with over 28,000 reps from 150 companies all over the world. And these findings showed that 23% of a rep's time is spent in the most productive way, actually selling, meaning talking to, engaging with prospects and customers over the phone, over email, video conference, face-to-face. So what are they doing with the rest of their time? Are they searching for content? Are they sending follow-up emails? Are they updating the CRM? So in fact, sales reps explicitly called out CRM as their biggest frustration in a previous Forbes study. But for business, that's really a problem. So much rich intel is discussed on customer calls. On an average, 6,000 words are exchanged in a single conversation. 6,000 words in a single conversation. Can you guess how many of these words are actually recorded by a sales rep in a CRM? Generally around 30. So 30 words out of 6,000 are put into your CRM. So think about all that institutional knowledge that you lost when somebody resigns or leaves the company, when only 30 words are there of that conversation that happened. And how much time are you wasting trying to pick up the pieces of understanding what conversations happened in the past? Reps expect these mundane tasks to be minimized or mitigated. And one of the key ways of doing this is using technology in a better way. So at Gong, we've totally eliminated the need for our reps to update the CRM, as every customer interaction is recorded automatically by the Gong revenue platform. So you don't have to lift a finger, it just happens. That covers everything from emails to phone exchanges, video calls, Slacks, texts. So doing so, by the way, also gives us as a company infinite memory on what has already happened with our customers and our prospects. So that if we transition an account to a new rep or to a new customer success manager, it's going to be seamless. So I'd encourage you to really take a look at what parts of the sales process you have going today where AI and machine learning could really help offer some improvement. I'd also like to suggest that the future is going to provide a lot more tailored automation using AI and machine language. For instance, technology that will draft a follow-up email based on the context of a call that you just had. So that email is going to include follow-up actions, next steps, maybe content that they promised to share. This email is going to be automatically drafted, sent to the rep. The rep reviews it, maybe makes a couple of tweaks and sends it. If that sounds futuristic, I'll tell you, it is. But you know what? Gong has a product like that today that we use, and it's called Gong Assist. And last but not least, forecasting reality. So one of the biggest challenges we face as revenue leaders is that, oh my gosh, these deals just fell out of the pipeline. A horrifying stat by CSO Insights said that 53% of the deals that reps commit to closing in their forecast never close. So of course, then you add significant market changes and shifts that impact your ability to predict your business. Wow. And now what is your next quarter going to look like? What's the impact of your next big product launch or your annual targets? So what if you could get visibility into these pipeline risks where whenever prospects are mentioning, hiring freezes, budget cuts, layoffs, could you help make your forecast a lot more accurate? You bet you can. And that, again, that technology exists today. So forecasting is a massive time suck on organizations. Frontline managers today spend probably up to 2 days a week forecasting sales, digging into understanding these deals better, and then only to be like wildly off on their forecast, especially in today's environment. So according to Forrester, 60% of sales organizations today do not have a well-defined or scientific approach to forecasting. Many don't use a common language to describe opportunities. So it's common to rely on summaries, stories, or other subjective feedback to determine the health of your sales pipeline. At Gong, we use Gong forecasting. Gong forecasting uses AI and machine language to predict deal risks based on what's happening or maybe what's not happening in a deal. So if your rep tells you that a deal is going to close at the end of the month, but they don't have the right stakeholders involved, they haven't discussed pricing at a certain stage of the deal, or they haven't heard back from the customer in a certain period of time, your sales managers will see that as a red flag, and hopefully they can do something about it proactively so that deal doesn't fall out of the pipeline. We call that forecasting based on reality. So what is this revenue intelligence? You know, it's a comprehensive approach to really gathering data and analysis that captures every customer interaction. It understands what's being said in those interactions, not just what's being said in voicemail, but what's being said in the emails, what's being said in text. And it delivers these insights at scale to your organization so that the revenue teams now can be empowered to make decisions that's based on data instead of opinion. And so I'm going to leave
that
you.
is so awesome. I think it's incredible. And that's one of the things that I love that I think people don't realize. We've even seen with our Sandler clients that they track the words that we teach salespeople to use in their upfront contracts, and deals that were using upfront contracts had more than like a double-digit increase in chances of closing. Not only is that something great to teach your team, but then you can add that into your forecasting details and say, oh, okay, we know this has a greater chance of closing if we're talking about budget early, if they're using upfront contracts. And it really gets just 100 times more sophisticated than we've ever seen before. Is that fair?
Exactly. We use Sandler internally, and we have trackers already set up for a lot of mutual Gong and Sandler customers. We love that, you know, and there's just so much more that can be done and leveraged. So thanks everybody for your time. If you have any more questions about Gong, you want to learn more, feel reach out. I'm happy to speak with everyone.